I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really look.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
Bravo, bravo. That was a genuinely hilarious ad, and whatever conservative organization parodying the left that put that ad out there, I give you all the credit in the world, because there is no way, shape, or form that this is a legitimate ad from a left-wing organization that was posted by a congressional representative, aka Eric Swalwell. Wait a minute, that's exactly what happened. This ad was put out actually seriously, not in jest at all whatsoever. And that's what we're going to talk about today. According to the Democratic Party, their newest tactic in order to change your mind on illegal immigration is to tell you that the Trump administration is just going to round up all the supposedly big booty Latinas, as Alex Stein would call them, and I find that to be absolutely hilarious. So what we're going to do is break this down, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really look.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
So look, obviously subtlety is not the golden rule in this ad, which by the way, we've actually seen other ads from this organization featuring the same guy who ends up playing the Republican congressman in this ad. And right here you have masked like criminal people arresting these people or kidnapping them, as is often described by the Democrats. And this, of course, is supposed to be immigration enforcement. This is what you are supposed to like in this too. And by the way, this isn't the first absurd Democratic ad that is way over the top and actually meant to be taken seriously, despite the fact that it's hilarious. I remember a Trump ad that featured a bunch of minority children's, and those children's were running because there was a pickup truck with, I believe, a Pence Trump bumper sticker on it that was running them down, presumably because said children were minorities and Trump supporters are evil white racists that are just chock full of evil white racism.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
So look, obviously your Republican congressman is played by an angry looking old white man, and this is supposed to imply that old white men are ruining society because, you know, old white men are the ones that constantly focus on race, even though what we see in the polling is just the opposite. Old white men and white people in general are the most post-racial people in the United States of America, and this is seen time and time again with charts on in-group preference versus out-group and all these other things that show us time and time again that white people are the ones that want to move past racism. But in this particular case, this evil white racist Republican is so evil, so white, and so racist that he wants to kidnap this woman because she looks like one of them, whatever that means.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them.
So the idea that this particular woman right here, the one featured, looks like one of them, whatever that means, is absolutely absurd. Now I'm thinking that the Democrats, the left wing, would have cast somebody who's at least partially Latina to play this role, but the fact is, if you told me this was a regular ordinary white person, I would not be able to tell the difference. And this is one of the things that I find absolutely hilarious, because you know, in the committee meeting with these woke idiots when they came up with this ad, they decided that they needed somebody who was lighter skinned, who looked more white, in order to get sympathy from the evil white racist, because in their opinion, you wouldn't have sympathy for somebody who's a minority. And also, they felt uncomfortable with having a very visibly Latina person as the person getting abducted right here, and then somebody saying she looks like one of them, because that's othering, and that would have been horrible, and that would have been racism from them, even though this whole ad is absurd racism, because, oh my god, we can't actually have that. So what ends up happening is the casting totally undercuts the message right here. But even funnier is where we end up at the end of this particular ad, because there is a line that I just think is chef's kiss in terms of irony that comes right after this.
But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
So there are so many ways that this is absolutely absurd. I just have to break them down one by one for all of you guys out there in the audience, because when you really think about everything that went into that line and that action, it just has to make you laugh. So first and foremost, one of the earliest criticisms of the evil orange man when he came down the escalator was his criticisms of Mexicans and them not setting their best, because one of the things that Trump highlighted is that there were some rapists that were coming over the border. Now, of course, he said some are good people, obviously, but the left-wing media really made it their business to emphasize that the evil orange man was an evil white racist, was an absolutely horrible racist, and one of the ways you knew he was a racist is that according to them, their interpretation of his speech when he came down the escalator, he was painting all of the Latinos, all of the Hispanics as rapists, as horrible men that would just take advantage of women. They'd be out here raping the white women according to what these people were putting in Trump and actually attaching to him. But right here in this particular ad, this guy's saying, well, when she goes to El Salvador, obviously she is going to be raped. That's what they do in El Salvador. Those are just Salvadorians. What can you expect from them? And it's honestly one of the most shocking parts of this entire ad that actually made it in there. In addition to that, right after that, what do we end up seeing? This Republican congressman, this evil white racist Republican congressman who's abducting American citizens for looking like one of them and sending them specifically to Latin America to be sexually assaulted, because, you know, that's what they do according to this message right here, decides that he's going to sniff this woman because they believe that sniffing women is one of the most creepy things that you could do if you're an old white man, an old evil white racist old man. And that's the message that they wanted to send to everybody out there in the audience, that this is how creepy your Republican candidates are. But the thing is, and I'm sure this won't be surprising to many of you out there in the audience, there is a candidate of a political party. He was once the leader of said political party, and actually in reality was the president for that political party, that does sniff women, and it is weird, it is creepy, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Visually, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and that person is not generic Republican Congressman number 7, it's actually President Joe Biden, or former President Joe Biden, who had been criticized for this time and time again. Yet in this ad, shockingly, after declaring that El Salvador is full of these just rapey individuals that are going to take advantage of this white woman, he ends up pulling a Joe Biden and sniffing this woman. I mean, that's what's happening right here. That is what is being presented to us. This is what the Democrats, the left wing, are selling us on what is going to happen. And I know that this is probably some super PAC or some organization that is producing these ads, but the fact is, this was reposted by Eric Swalwell, who probably is very angry due to the fact that his Chinese spy girlfriends are not likely to stay in the United States of America. This is what the Democrats have put forward. And of course, they conclude with the "homegrowns are next" quote from President Donald Trump. And of course, this is a reference to President Trump sitting down with Nayib Bukele when Bukele offered to ship Americans down to El Salvador's prison so we don't have to deal with them over here. And President Trump has mentioned this and floated this out there a couple of times, but he's also acknowledged that he does not have the authority to do so. And to be clear, this is a dumb quote from President Trump. And again, it's just used as fuel, in this case for a hilarious fire, but in other instances, in other cases, in order to attack him and in order to attack his deportation policy. Because again, make no mistake about it, American citizens are not being kidnapped from the streets and thrown in prison because allegedly they look like one of them. That's not a thing. But of course, President Trump has to say things. He has to say, oh no, the criminals are so bad in the United States. And that is of course going to lead people to assume that maybe this is a possibility. Again, this is one of the president's own goals. It just so happens in this particular case, the Democrats took that own goal and ended up scoring it in their goal like 14 times because they're that much of idiots. But yeah, this is the ad that the Democrats have put forward to scare you into not supporting Trump's deportation program. And one of the reasons why they're trying to go in this direction is because his deportation program is actually incredibly popular. Again, CNN has done the polling on this, and it has shown, and I've shown it time and time again, that he is on his best when he's talking about immigration immigration.
Yet the American electorate believe that the Democrats don't have a clue on the issue of immigration. I mean, you could just take it here. Closer to trust more in immigration, Democrats versus Republicans. Got 3 different polls for you across the board. They all tell the same story. Republicans lead on the issue of immigration. You see it here, CBS +6. You see it here, CNN +6. You see it here, Ipsos, even bigger, +19. No matter what poll you look at, no matter which way you cut it, the American public is with the Republicans, the American public is with Donald Trump, and to a much greater extent than they were in term number 1. And it's not just on the broad issue of immigration, it's on the specifics as well, in which the American public is with Donald Trump and the Republicans. And that is why Donald Trump is eager to take on this fight and eager for those scenes at a Los Angeles.
Now, with all that being said, I want to know what you guys think about this particular ad and this particular strategy, and if you think this is the way that the Democrats end up getting young men to switch back to their team by talking about how their hot Latina girlfriends are about to get snatched up off the street and sent to be assaulted in El Salvador, because that's just what happens in El Salvador. Or do you think that this is going to backfire for all of the hilarious reasons I've laid out throughout the course of this video? As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about an insane ad run by the Democrats. Till next time.